Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Hello. Oh, hello to Juan on Instagram. Juan is an OG doll in the cello doll community. So great to see you. Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi. Oh, this is embarrassing. I definitely have lipstick on my teeth. Uh-oh. Hold on. It's not cute. It's not cute. Ah. Oh, my goodness. All right. You saw nothing. You heard nothing. That's my coping mechanism. Juan made me laugh. He said it's a occupational hazard. Is lipstick on the teeth, but I think we're good to go. Oh, I did think of that. Oh, and thank you on YouTube for being excited for the tips and tricks. I did want to bring up something in the chat. Unfortunately, as many of you know, recently we lost a music legend, Ozzy Osbourne of Black Sabbath. And I don't want to do an impromptu shred, but I think I will make something in his honor eventually. Just influenced so much the world of metal music. And I know a lot of people are feeling his loss right now. For those of you who haven't seen footage of his final performance, it's incredibly moving that he was so passionate about his music and his fan base. So definitely would love to make a post about it, but I definitely want to do it in a more formal, polished way than just do something on the spot. So yeah, I definitely think I'll do something in his honor soon. But again, if you haven't seen footage from his last concert, you can just feel how much doing that meant to him just by watching it. It's a very moving performance. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend looking at footage highlights from his final show. So we all miss you, Ozzy, but you're not going to be forgotten, that's for sure. So today we are going to be covering some cello tips. I will also probably noodle some improv. Why not? Just been at the cello this morning, feeling good and playing around, so might do some noodles. For those of you who are new, we do an educational live stream once a month, usually within the last 2 weeks of each month, and we do tips and tricks and demos and all these kinds of things. And I really like it when you dolls run the stream and tell me what you are interested in hearing. I think that's very important for you all to have a say in what I talk about today. So I might bust out some stuff. We have a question. Any metal pieces on acoustic? We might bust out a guitar solo or something. That'd be kind of fun. We have our first question. In general, when recording, what is the ideal mic setup for acoustic instruments? That's a great question. I am going to speak. Whoops. So acoustic instruments, that's kind of a broad spectrum term. Basically anything that's not amplified can be considered an acoustic instrument. So what I'll do is I'll talk mainly about cello perspective, what kind of mic setup. So for microphones, you definitely want to go with a cardioid microphone. That has to do with the shape. I could take my camera and pan it, but it might get a little rough. Oh, it's another great question. So, I get so excited that I lose my train of thought. Sorry. Okay, microphones, cardioid. So, microphones have different shapes, and we're not just talking about the outside of the microphone, kind of the shape of the mechanics on the inside. And cardioid, I might not be pronouncing it correctly, maybe I am, but a cardioid microphone sounds like cardio, and it's shaped that way because it's kind of a heart-shaped on the inside mechanics. And I've been told those are best from cello. I have a couple really awesome supportive friends. Shout out to Matt Craig in New York City, phenomenal sound engineer. Another shout out to my friend Christian in LA, who is also another phenomenal sound engineer. So anything I've learned, it's been primarily from them. And basically, you want to have that for the cello. For lower notes, I've also heard that ribbon microphones are also good. Yes. Oh, more questions. Yay! Oh, I get so excited. I've heard a ribbon microphone. Those are kind of the long, skinny ones that are small, long, and skinny. I've heard those can be great for picking up kind of lower end stuff. Someday, I think it would be really cool to invest in a ribbon microphone and experiment. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a great follow-up. Mic placement. We will absolutely get there. Mic placement, generally, most of the time, my microphones are pretty close to the cello. Like, if I were to move my cameras right now back half a foot, you would see my microphones. Movie magic, you don't right now. But they're generally about a foot from the F-hole. And for those of you who don't know, the F-holes, they're actually cut out on the cello face. You look in, you can see inside. So those are the F-holes. And I generally put the microphone a foot to 2 feet. It also depends on the kind of sound you want. The closer the microphone is, the more it will pick up. And I know that sounds kind of common sense, but you have to be really careful. And that's why practicing really smooth bow changes is very important, because you hear every little nook and cranny. I have done recordings where I'm done and then I'll like catch, or my finger will catch the string, and I'm like, gotta redo that ending because that's gonna get picked up on the microphone. So you can't hide anything when you're recording yourself like this closely for audio stuff. So not only is mic placement important, but also how you play is very important. It's a lot different than projecting in a 1,000-seat concert hall versus having the microphone right in front of you. So generally, if I have one microphone, I like to have it off to the right, my right, so that my bow doesn't really hit it. But right now I'm actually working with 2 microphones, which is really, really cool. I'm going to see if I can show you. Maybe I can show you my microphones. So I have 2 microphones, one in front of each F-hole, and that's really cool because it's kind of naturally panned. This is from my buddy Christian in LA. He does a lot of strings this way, so I'm trying his setup. And that way you get natural panning straight from the get-go. You can also do it in post-editing, but the panning, having a mic on the left and the right, I'm having the A and D string side recorded and also the C and G string side recorded. So if I lower this a little bit, let me see. Can you see that? That's my phone. Oh, you can't see it. Damn. Maybe I'll post a photo. I'll put a photo in my Instagram story. How about that? I'll show you guys my mic setup. Doop-a-doop-boop. So the recording setup is the same I use for my stream setup. Fun fact. I use the same mic placement. All right. Question from Juan on Instagram. Is it hard for you to shred Vivaldi's Summer Presto on cello? This is a common one. The Vivaldi Four Seasons is used for a lot of classical and rock crossovers. But it's not too challenging. But the thing that's challenging about it, when pieces are really fast and lots of notes, and that covers Vivaldi Summer, that requires a lot of clean practicing. So I'll take a run from, I'm actually working on a side project that has some Vivaldi Four Seasons. So Juan, your question is well timed. I was actually looking at this today. So I'm going to show you guys a couple examples of kind of the subtle things we practice that you might not be aware of. So when it comes to clarity, there's a lot of running scales in Vivaldi, and what can happen is, hold on, let me adjust my camera back for YouTube. Y'all can't see my bridge. Doop. Back up. It's very important for you all to see up to the bridge. There we go. Love it. There we go. All right. So if I have a scale, okay, if I play it really fast, but my hands are slightly off, it's going to sound a little fuzzy, and you're not going to hear this crisp rhythm. So if, I mean, you get the gist of what it is, but it sounds kind of scratchy. It's not as clear. You have to be really heavy. So if I were to, in slow motion, this is what's happening. It's not going to sound great in slow motion. But when it's sped up, here's the secret to fast playing. I'm about to tell all of you. One of the big secrets. Not really a secret, but a tip that will really help. If you think about fast notes, I only have this much time. I only have this much time to play a note. We're talking about length here. I only have this much time. And if my weight isn't fully in the string and I'm super relaxed and loose, that's not a lot of time to make the note speak. So if you're really heavy, I'm not talking about pressing from above. If your bow arm is really, really heavy and you practice years, I mean, still to this day, I practice like this. That sounds kind of but when you speed it up, it's clean as hell. So much better than cello duet that I'm going to be playing in the fall, 2 cellos, and it's the that one. I'm not playing that part, so I'm kind of playing this off the cuff. That one, and I have a lot of scales up. Something like that. So in all these scales, you know, really practicing to feel heavy and connected, because when you're playing something really fast, you get kind of, if you start feeling like that, you're not going to feel weighted and cushy in the string, and your tone quality is going to gradually get fuzzier. So that's just a little bit about fast playing. So to answer your question, Juan, it's challenging in unique ways that fast rhythmic stuff is, with a lot of quick notes. So it has unique challenges. And that's what I encourage a lot of you to do in practicing, is to look at a piece and say, what is hard about this? And I know, again, that sounds kind of like, well, duh, but it's so important to sit and ask, what is hard about this? Because that's going to influence all the strategies you pick in how you practice something. So fast stuff, clarity, accuracy of intonation. Again, the faster the tempo, the less time you have for things to be correct, and the way you want them to sound. So, like for example, I wasn't happy with the intonation on that G. So now I'm realizing I can prep better. See? And now it's better. So just little things like that. And left hand efficiency is also super important in fast playing. Great question. Next question from YouTube. Thank you so much. They start, cello is such a specific and the most beautiful instrument. Well, I'm inclined to agree with you, but I am incredibly biased. How did you make this jump to electric and the covers from a traditional cello background? That's a great question. So, because I think it has a really lengthy answer, but I'll do my best. It's basically like, why did Cello Doll happen? Why did I become fusion instead of solely playing only classical music? I love classical music, don't get me wrong, and I love performing it. I was just practicing some earlier today. But one thing I noticed a lot was when I was in college, was when a lot of orchestras around the country were actually going bankrupt from a lack of filling concert seats. And nowadays, a lot of classical orchestras will have programs like Q&A with the soloing artists, or they'll have like a pop concert series. Or another great example, Lindsay Sterling is doing a concert tour with some orchestras right now, where she's soloing with orchestras around the country. So they're expanding their repertoire and going into other genres. But when I was in college, it was very rare for orchestras to do that. And we're only talking like 10 years ago. Oh my God, already 10 years ago. But I started thinking about, because I would often listen to music that matched the classical music I liked. So I like a lot of like brooding alternative music. And then I love composers like Shostakovich, Prokofiev, Brahms, a lot of composers like that. So I started thinking about this parallel. When I was in college, the Vitamin String Quartet was also really, really hot and popular. So I just kind of, and then when I was thinking about starting Cello Doll, I started meeting mentors who worked with some of the artists I grew up listening to. One big example is a phenomenal cellist named David Edgar, Eggar. And he writes strings for a lot of celebrity musicians. And so it just kind of started coming into my sphere that, you know, there's a lot more to be done with cello. And keep in mind, discovered Apocalyptica when I was 16. Two cellos was also really hot at that time, and Lindsey Sterling was starting to take off. So I started seeing these people combining virtuosic training with other genres of music. And I thought, because in my head I was already kind of translating genres in my brain, like, oh, this Brahms reminds me of an Evanescence song, you know, things like that. So I started thinking if I could translate things, make cello more accessible and cool, but still keep it very challenging and virtuosic, it could get people excited again about classical instruments and things like that. I also, it was a dream of mine to have an electric cello for a long time. And that opens up your sound world too, because you have effect pedals, a lot of things that are on guitar, pedal board setups you can do on an electric cello. So with the genres I was interested in, I think, yes, yeah, translations are pivotal in much of life, exactly. And another thing too for me was storytelling. For those of you who want an example of how my brain works, if you haven't checked out my album, Escaping Darkness, I combined soundtrack music, pieces I have written, so original compositions, and then classical pieces, and every song is like every piece is like a chapter in a book. So I combined all these different worlds of music to make a cohesive storyline, a dark fantasy story in the album. So I also think storytelling is a huge way people relate to each other, even if they come from different backgrounds and different walks of life. We all tell stories. So I also frequently thought of storylines in the pieces I play. So this idea of crossing genres, translating what I do on cello, and also I think, yeah, so the album, it is in my Instagram bio. It's also called Escaping Darkness. Escaping Darkness by the Cello Doll on all the platforms. So that was a big, my love child. But again, it really came from, and here's the other thing too, like, I'm gonna get really real here. Classical careers are highly competitive. Highly competitive. And like a big question I got throughout college was, do you want to be in an orchestra? And the lifestyle just isn't for me. But you have to understand, like, an opening comes out once every, I don't know, like 5 years, 10 years. So you're waiting for this dream for a really long time, and then 100 other people show up to this audition with you. And it's not impossible, but again, it's extremely, extremely competitive. And so as I started getting into cello, learning what kind of music I liked. I also studied composition, and then I met someone like Dave Edgar, who uses all of those skill sets in his work, and it just kind of made me realize I wanted a path, even though it's kind of uncharted territory and it's always exciting. It combined a lot of the skill sets that I don't think I could use in other settings. Like, for example, I can analyze a symphony really, really well, which will help me to perform said symphony, but unless I get a composition job, I'm not going to really do that in an orchestra. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So I've also just been trying to find a career path that allows me to use everything I love to do and that I think I can make a mark in and excel at. And again, I always want to come from a place of being humble, put that out there. I really do want to be humble about this. But I also know what my strengths are. And I'm just, making my path one step at a time every day. So I know, I said I didn't want to talk a lot. Oh, God. I slowly see people disappearing. No, I'm kidding. But it's a very complicated journey and message. Oh, and someone else in the chat brought up too, yeah, I did a mashup of Game of Thrones with Beethoven 5 and Beethoven 7. So that was an example of like a direct translation where I took a classical composer and combined it with a soundtrack. And people who love Game of Thrones will check out Beethoven, and likewise, people who like Beethoven might go, oh, cool, I want to check out Game of Thrones soundtrack. So it's been a while since I've done a mashup like that, but I do have one on the back burner. So that's all I'll say about that, because I need to actually do it and get it out of my brain. More questions? These are all great. Oh, wow. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see that the Instagram didn't scroll for me. Sorry. Thank you for your kind words in the chat. That's very nice. Thank you. Oh, so let's talk a little bit until I see a question. I don't know if Juan is still with us, but he wanted to hear some metal music. So I think one thing would be cool is I'm going to talk about I'm every single day, the more I look at guitar solos and stuff, I get so fascinated with the classical techniques I use to cover something like My Chemical Romance or these alternative bands. Let me see. So I'm going to go to famous last words. So couple things if you're interested in learning guitar solos or rock songs, things like that. There's a concept in guitar playing where they physically actually bend the string. You'll see them pull the string like that with their fingers. And what it does, it actually bumps up the pitch. I believe it's always kind of bumping up the pitch. But when we do that, I mean, it doesn't really do anything. I mean, if anything, I get a wee. I get it like puts a gap in the pitch rather than raising the pitch. And also, I think because we don't have frets, it's a little harder for us to pull the string and bend. So what I do is I do a scoop slide with my fingers. So I always have to like really practice getting back. So these are like micro slides. is an example of taking like a guitar technique and basically just trusting my ear and saying, what do I hear them doing and how do I know how to do it? So again, a bend will raise the pitch slightly, wah, wah, wah. And so for me, that sounds like micro sliding. So that's what I do. The other thing too is, let me see. So I'm looking at a My Chemical Romance guitar solo. That one too. That's how they decorate a lot of repeated pitches in guitar solos with bends. So again, I just do micro sliding, but this is where kind of the classical side comes in. You have to be really careful that you keep the pitch and that your intonation doesn't sound like it's sliding around everywhere. So you have the decoration and then the pitch. And you have to make sure it doesn't muddy it up. You have to have a very clear cut. So there we go. Is that right? It's been a minute since I've played this. Yeah, that's right. So, how I practice that, I go very, 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 very slow. I would need to slow this down and really get it back. So, that's how it goes. That one's hard. Okay, the other thing too, my kind of big tip, when you hear a lot of fast runs, they are technically plucking every note with a guitar pick. But if we do that with our bow, every single bow stroke, it really kind of, it doesn't give it that smooth line you hear in guitar solos. So like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have that, so a lot of fast guitar notes in a solo, I slur them with a bow. So anything that's like a 16th note, I would definitely slur it with the bow. Because a pick is a solid material and the pluck is always going to be really clean. We have bow hair, which is not a consistent surface. So I think slurring faster notes in guitar solos, unless if it's a repeated note, you don't slur it, you separate it. Slurred. Is that? There it is. So I slurred those. So again, you might need to translate guitar techniques to get the same sound on your instrument. If you do exactly what a guitarist does, it's not going to sound like a guitar because you're not playing a guitar. So don't be afraid to experiment and figure out what kind of techniques you need and what you already know how to do well to get a guitar solo the way you want it to sound. Or any other genre. It doesn't have to be guitar solo. It could be country, could be bluegrass, a lot of stuff like that. But bluegrass players have a whole arsenal of their own techniques, which is also a really cool deep dive. I'm someone on YouTube. I'm a ranked beginner, and I've been doing your open string bow hand exercises all week. They are really helping. Your tutorials are evergreen. Aww, that's so sweet. Thank you. Yes, open string bow hand exercises. So important. Thank you so much. That is so, for leaving the thoughtful message. That's incredibly kind and thoughtful and really means a lot. I didn't really do those until after many years of playing, and my bow hand was not very relaxed, and I had like my various shapes and my hand would just stay there. So that's really, really going to help with your sound production a ton. I know you didn't ask, but I think it would be really cool to talk about some of the most important things I discuss. Yeah, and then we have another great question. Awesome. So for the open strings, like October, I believe it's called the Open Strings October because it came out in October. It has a lot of play along exercises. It has a calendar, and I tell you which videos to look at on the calendar. You can do it over the course of a month. And the thing is, every video is like, I don't know, 10 minutes, 8 minutes. I try to not like have you sitting there for an hour with YouTube videos. So one thing about the Open Strings October, it's going to encourage bow hand flexibility. Whatever your fingers are doing, your thumb has to do it too. That's so important. So if your fingers are curling, the thumb has to also be curled. Thumb's got to curl. If the fingers are straight and loose, the thumb is also straight and loose. So the thumb is moving with your fingers. That's so important. Another thing that's really important, I'm going to move in a weird way because Instagram's vertical and they're not going to see this, but if I do an up bow, oh my God, a down bow, oh Lord. My second coffee is on it's after this stream, that's what I'm going to have, and then my brain will be sharp again. So to lean into the tip, I have to lift my elbow a little bit. It's like a seesaw. And I actually want to make a video. I came up with this today, why your arms are like seesaws. So both of your arms are very much like a seesaw, and you can use the seesaw for good or for evil. So you got to be careful. I'll explain it in the video when I make it. But when you go out to the tip, if I don't do anything, the sound dies away. So if I lift the elbow a little bit, like a seesaw, the tip is going to go down into the string, allowing me to have deeper contact and keep my sound up. Now when you come back in, your elbow must get low and cozy from where you started. If you leave the elbow up, I am taking so much of my potential weight out of the cello. You gotta come back from the shoulders to the elbow. You expand, and then you come back in like you're giving your cello a hug. Expand and come back. So when you're doing these long tone open string exercises, make sure the elbow kind of comes down and folds back in. That's really gonna help. I talked about the thumb. the elbow, and a lot of people say, well, how low should I be low? Blah, blah, blah. It's, if your elbow is below the wrist, you are fine. Your elbow's always below the wrist. And I believe that's something important too when you do these exercises. The minute your elbow goes above the wrist, that's so much tension back here. And you're also kind of cutting off your back. A lot of people don't know this, but when you bow properly, you use muscles in your back. I know your arm is moving and doing a lot of work, but when you're low and cozy, it allows you to tap into those back muscles. If you suspend, you're kind of cutting it off at the shoulder at least, maybe even the elbow, and you don't have those muscles and that powerhouse because your back is very strong, lots of big muscles, and it's so fascinating. So watch your thumb, make sure it's on the same page as your fingers. Watch that your elbow and shoulder come back in after a big bow. And my other final tip is there are some exercises where you curl and then you push, curl, push, and my fingers go down. And sometimes when I show this exercise to students, they immediately, and I'm like, no, you have to do the stop and assessment, and I know it's gonna have a crunch, and don't be afraid to, like, for the sake of a short exercise and to get the movement, don't be afraid to have some crunch. The mentor who really opened up my eyes, and a lot of these techniques are from him. I talk about him in quite a few videos. Peter Howard, Mr. Howard. One of the most incredible teachers I've ever met. I love Peter Howard. And it's really great because he's a cellist from a few generations back, but he loves all the cello doll stuff and all the ways I'm, making cello, playing and using the cello in so many different ways. But I remember I was playing for him once and we were working on projection and fluidity, and I played something and I stopped and I was like, oh no. And he goes, no, it's good, because now you know what too much is. When you hear that, and he said, don't be afraid when a sound comes out you don't like, because now you'll know how to not replicate it. And that really hit me. That really impacted my way of thinking. So when you have these exercises where you're just so in the string, you have all your weight in there, you pick it up. So I'm curling my fingers as I go down. Curl. And then I relax them. You're gonna hear the sound is a little, but the thing is, you are completely trusting the weight. Oh, great question. Someone just joined the stream. Hello. And they said you have to make a stop, but why? Stopping in an exercise allows you to assess. You just kind of go through the motions and you think, all right, that's good enough. You don't always know kind of what you were doing at each step. So I always encourage people to pause and check themselves and assess. So that's why I often have stops in my exercise. But then once you get the handle of it, the next step is to practice fluidity through the transitions. So it's a multi-step process. Good question. Another question, have you known cellists that have walked away from the cello for a while and then come back to it later? If so, what might be ways to encourage their love for the instrument again? This is an excellent question. I actually know quite a few people that have this circumstance in their life. I need H2O, so excuse me. You like my black and shiny water bottle? So, encouragement when you're returning to cello. I think, and I know for me, there are times when this industry is really hard, man. There are times in music school where I was thinking, what am I doing? And I'm laughing as a coping mechanism, but honestly, there were some times that were really, really hard. Like, not fun. We'll put it that way. Not very fun. So I think this applies, that's how I can relate to that feeling. I'm not trying to make it about myself. It's a great question. But how can I relate to this? That's the closest I can relate to it. And I think what helps me and other people is to just search for the why. Always search for the why. Why did you choose cello? Why did you fall in love with the instrument? Listen to your favorite cello music. I tell students all the time, if you have a busy day and you can't practice, like watch Dupre, watch Rostropovich, watch Yo-Yo Ma, like have them on in the background and just watch them while you work. Or I get so inspired by watching other cellists perform, which is why I love going to cello concerts. So I think surrounding yourself with inspiration, very important. So listen to your favorite cello artists. Another way to encourage the love for the instrument, a lot of people, when they come back to cello, they go, okay, I know I'm not going to sound like how I did 10 years ago, but I got to get there soon. And I try to frame it as, you have that potential. It's never going to leave you. Cello's never going to leave you. But rather than rush through the process, this is your chance to reset any bad habits you couldn't shake 10 years ago. So the other thing I really tell people is don't be afraid to take your time. We're always told in our society that there's not enough time, you're behind, you're too old, you're too this, there's not enough time, do it faster, make it faster. But when you're fast, things get sloppy. And by being slower, you will learn what's more efficient, and in that way, you can be faster. So don't rush the growth. And we all have hard days, so I'm not going to say everything's going to be a walk in the park and easy, but just prepare for those things mentally. I think a big part of cello playing is, oh, cool. Thank you so much. The other thing too, I just posted a video last weekend, so it's pretty recent. It's a video that is a pep talk for adult students. So whether you want to learn cello later in life, or you played it in your youth, went to college, got a job, started your life, and now you want to go back to cello, that talk, it's just a little pep talk. Yeah. So that's a great, I would check that out, just like a little pep talk to have, where I say some encouraging words about the unique challenges of learning cello in adulthood. Also applies to returning to cello in adulthood. Because that's the thing too, a lot of people played cello in high school and middle school, and they love it, but then like you want to go to college and be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer, whatever. The studies are so extensive, it's really hard to practice a musical instrument while pursuing that career dream. So a lot of people go off, have these beautiful careers, and then want to go back and revisit cello, you know? So there's an amazing quote here on Instagram from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. Quote, "Do you know how old I'll be by the time I learn to really play? Yes, the same age you will be if you don't." Yeah, time's gonna happen, right? Time's gonna happen regardless. So I have to tell myself this all the time. I can spend my time. I think that's a beautiful quote. Thank you. If you like books like that, I had to read a book in college, and I'm actually glad we were instructed to read this book. It was incredibly influential. I think it's called The Art of Playing Tennis, or The Game of Playing Tennis. And it's all about psychologically, because musicians train. And I see you on YouTube. Don't worry. I will answer your question. I just think this is so important too. But I will get to you, I promise. The Art of Playing Tennis, I believe. And it's a very famous book about the psychology of extensively training for something really competitive and high performance pressured based. Because a lot of people don't realize right away that a lot of people in music school are training as many hours as like Olympic athletes. Like I realized in college I had to start taking vitamin D because I would get to the practice room early in the morning, and then by the time I left, the sun would be long set and I wasn't outside like ever. You know? Sometimes I'm still that way, but that's a very good book too. Ways of, yeah, he's also talking about how he teaches playing tennis, but also just like what he noticed about his student psychology. It's a very fascinating book. Cool. Next question from YouTube. I bought a used cello with a bow. It's really great, and bow hair amount seems to be fine. It was rarely played for 2 years and 4 years. It wasn't played at all. Do you still think it needs to be rehaired? And I bought new rosin. Maybe it's enough to just clean it with alcohol. Do not use alcohol on your bow hair, please. Please don't do that. The only thing that should go on your bow hair is rosin. I think more so the time. I wouldn't worry so much about the time. It's more about the feel of the bow hair. So when I know, when should your bow be rehaired? So you can always check by the frog. I'll hold it up on Instagram. So you can, and then on YouTube. So you can see that my bow hair is pretty good. You know, I don't have too many missing. Sometimes you'll see a little space on the edges of the metal, and that tells you you've lost quite a few hairs. But what I will tell you, there's kind of, if you find you put rosin on your bow, sounds great, and you practice regularly. By your second practice session, or like you wake up the next day, you go to practice, like if I find I'm rosining my bow more frequently, it's usually a sign the hair needs to be changed. So what I will say is, because the bow hair was rarely played for 2 to 4 years, that is quite a long time for hair to be stretched and not being used. So it might be slightly dull, but I would just rosin it, see how it sounds. If you find that your bow hair, you don't feel like you're having good contact, or you're working hard to make a big sound, that's a sign it needs to be rehaired. So again, if you find yourself, like I've noticed with certain bows, I'm like, this is the second or third time this week I've rosined you. That's kind of my cue to go get it rehaired. What I will tell you, when you go, now this is about cleaning the bow, right? Because what happens is, when, for those of you who might not know, when you rosin your bow, it creates rosin dust. So you will see kind of this white dust on your cello strings. It also gets on the wood of the bow. So this is what I do. This is just a little maintenance, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not like a PR announcement. What's it? Oh, man. One of you will tell me. So bow maintenance, this is a cloth. It's just like a simple washcloth or cleaning cloth. PSA, thank you. I said it just as Hannah Lardine put it in the chat. That was such weird timing. How'd you know? I said it like the minute it popped up on the screen. That's so funny. So what I do with the cloth is I pinch my fingers and I go underneath and I do that. I also take my finger and go behind. Sorry, the screechy sounds. I know, it's like nails on a chalkboard. So this is how I clean it without touching the bow hair. Now, when you go to get it rehaired, ask the bow shop, tell them what you just told me. Hey, I just got this bow. It hasn't been played for a few years. Can you check the wood and see, because they'll clean it for you. They'll check the wood underneath the hair. They'll check it for you, and they have all of the best gear to clean it. Now, here's the thing. I'm a little bit paranoid. I know I've been told there are ways you can clean, and you can clean your bow. There are ways you can clean the front of your cello. I personally don't do it. I don't do it because I am worried I will mess up, cause damage, and then instead of paying someone to do it, I'm paying them double because they have to fix what I messed up. So I would always get second and third opinions if someone tells you a DIY way to clean something. You're working with wood. Even though the wood is no longer on a tree, it was a living, breathing organism. You know, it's a very delicate material. Things like carbon fiber bows, maybe your bow's carbon fiber, I don't know. Carbon fiber stuff tends to be a little more resilient because it is a man-made synthetic material. So it's a lot less susceptible when cleaning. It's a little tougher. So I hope that helps. And again, if you are really, really interested in maintaining some stuff on your own, talk to the person you bring the rehair to. Ask them for tips and tricks. They'll have the best advice for you. Great question. All right. I got to bring back the superstar. Shelly's back. Okay. I see. So yeah, I'm not quite sure of the luthier status in Germany. Living in Germany forces to learn to be luthier and all-in-one masters by my own. Monthly cues, awful service. Did it twice with the guitar and twice regretted it. What I would tell, if you have a cello teacher, or even, like honestly, I ask all of my friends where they get their work done. if I'm new to the area, when I was new to a college. So if you have friends, you can also go to Facebook groups, honestly, and say, hey, I'm living in this part of Germany. Where do you get your work done? There are so many cello Facebook forums out there. So I would highly recommend that. I do search online like Google and Yelp, but I kind of do that to get an idea of what's around, and then I immediately ask my colleagues. Yeah, you're welcome, because that way you get a first-hand experience of what it's like to go there. And kind of string stuff is kind of a small community. You know, like I use Google search and Yelp for like restaurants and stuff, because everyone goes to those. Everyone writes about those. Cello stuff is really niche. So I will agree, it is harder to find knowledge on, which is why I would really go to forums, and anyone else you know in your community that plays a string instrument. Cool! Yay! Send-off for you all. He wanted to say thank you for the live stream. Thank you for attending. Thank you all so much for contributing your lovely, lovely questions. It was so amazing to come out here and hang out with you all today. And thank you for contributing and making this live stream so fun. If it's your first time, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on the channel. We do these live streams within the last 2 weeks of every month. I try to make it the last Thursday of the month, but you know, the musician life, sometimes it comes earlier. And if you want to keep tabs on future projects when live streams are happening, post it all on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, things like that. So, you know, just check in occasionally and see what's going on. And very grateful to have you all here today. So I'll see you next time at the end of August. Have a beautiful time practicing and having fun summertime adventures. Oh, I love it. Yes, please continue to fall in love with your cello. That is the foundation of perseverance and amazing memories with cello. It's just important in so many ways. Always love your cello. Stay in love with it when you can. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad. Welcome. I'm glad you caught the stream as well. We'll see you all at the end of August. And yeah, just have a wonderful time and stay tuned for some fun projects coming up. August is packed, y'all. I have a lot of stuff going on in August, so I'm excited to share it with you all soon. Bye.